So I was just browsing on the Star Citizen X Spectrum, and there's a patch note for 4.3.2 Evocati. And I was scrolling down in the discussion, and one player wrote, "So salvage is mining now." Then another player replied, "Mining is so much more complex, lol. Salvage is still a power wash simulator. No modules, no huge diversity of laser stats, no gadgets, no thought required." And that's, I think, the worst post I've ever seen on the entire Star Citizen spectrum. And I'm not upset at the person providing that. I'm upset at because it indicates that the developers got away with downgrading industrial gameplay to like the lowest possible way they could downgrade it. And they added some systems to cover it up that are easy to produce. And the post shows that players, they got successfully fooled by it. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so this is a screenshot of mining. And you can see it's a one-dimensional minigame where you have to control the intensity or the power of the laser to keep it in a certain range. If you go over it, it's bad. If you go below, you don't get, it doesn't crack or something. And if you look at it, it's a variation of the golf swing minigame in really old video games where you have a character playing golf, you click, the character swings, and then you have to, at the right point of the scale, you have to click, so it's within that certain bracket, and then it's a successful swing. The problem here is that game is exactly the same, except you have to continuously do it, which means it's constantly going up and down. You have to control it with your mouse wheel to get into that area. That's an extremely primitive minigame. You can't even make it, like, I wouldn't find a way to make it more primitive than just clicking on the rock and it explodes instantly from the shot. And the other problem is, it's an entirely UI minigame. You aiming at the rock is just, it's just decoration. You're not interacting with the rock, with the shape of it, where a laser is pointing at. So you're just mouse wheeling, and to make it more, to add more depth to it, as the guy said in the post, they added more laser attachments you can attach, which is easy to do in development, and then they added some modifiers on how hard it is to control where your laser is at on the scale. That's it. And I think there was a concern 4 or 5 years ago, or even before that, or 5 or 6, 7 years ago, when mining was only going to be a beam, and a lot of players said it's just tier 0, it will get better later. And it didn't get better. It's still a beam. It's still an abstract minigame that is entirely played on a UI. And like there's no more complexity coming to it. It's the same one-dimensional mouse wheel minigame, and it will never get better than that. Now let's compare it to Salvage. Now that's a pre-rendered from the Misc Fortune video, but it looks pretty much the same in-game. That's one of the few things in the game where the developers, at least for the beam Salvage, did something as it was promised. Like there are other problems with Salvage, but that's for another video. So anyway, you actually point your laser along the hull, and you basically paint along the ship by carving off the piece. And it visually looks pretty impressive. And it's a nice minigame because you're interacting with the object. You're positioning your laser in your ship. It's like peeling a fruit in real life. It's a similar sensation you get from that minigame. And that's in itself much more engaging because of the physicality of it. And now if we go back to the post, that player got successfully fooled into thinking the Salvage minigame is somehow less deep than mining. But notice how Salvage actually doesn't need, or the Salvage beam minigame to be more specific, it doesn't actually need, like as it says, huge diversity of lasers, gadgets, and no thought required. Like that player got successfully fooled into thinking, now, let me put it this way. What they did with mining is they reduced basically anything that would require complex animation work or some type of gameplay depth that's beyond a minigame on a HUD. They just skipped it out and added more variations to the HUD minigame, which is an extremely primitive minigame, which means they avoided complex asset work and just give you more numbers on the screen and nicer UI to distract you from it. Whereas in the Salvage minigame, the beam minigame, you have some physical interaction.